So I think it's fair to say that I didn't love FM23. And as Football Manager starts to release information on FM24, I think it's important we talk about it. I was critical. I was openly quite critical last year. So let's not just all wait for FM25. If you don't know, Football Manager announced that FM25 is going to be the big new, brand spanking new engine Football Manager. But let's not completely dismiss a year of our lives, okay? FM24 is going to come packed full of new things. And they've announced some stuff to do with transfers, mainly transfers, finances. So they've just put out a blog post. Here is that blog post. And here is us then talking through the blog post. Smarter transfers, squad building, and finance. So what I'll do is I'll read a blog post and I'll tell you what I think about the things that I'm reading. So I continue to drive to mirror developments in the real footballing world, make Football Manager 2024 the most complete edition in the series yet. Two areas in which we've worked extensively that powerfully reflect that are recruitment and finance. Now, one of the interesting bits about this for me is, will they include Saudi Arabia? Lots of talk about the J League at the moment, and are they going to bring the J League in to Football Manager? But is Saudi Arabia's league going to be brought in? There's so far been no update on that. It's not there at the moment, for those of you that don't realise. But those clubs still do make some big transfers. Of course, they're still able to do that. But have they had time to develop an entirely new league into the Football Manager system? Of course, it's kind of already there in the database, but making it a playable league obviously sets a different challenge. So I wonder. And that's before we talk about the moral issues there, probably too. On the recruitment front then, they've significantly improved decision-making and team selection capabilities of IA managers. You'll also see in-game, the game world better reflects the current trends in the real-life transfer market. Now, they always... we're only on 3 lines in, and I'm pausing a lot. The interesting thing with Football Manager is it does a really good job of replicating now. It doesn't do a great job of replicating 5 years, 10 years in the future. Like, it's harder. They can't predict those trends. Are they going to create those trends? Like, the real life transfer market is the real life transfer market of now. So even if you're playing in 2020, like 35, let's say, 2035, you're still reflective of the transfer market in 2024. You see? So I do wonder how they're going to continue to sort of replicate that. Like, will they make America a powerhouse at some point? Will South America become more prevalent? Like, will they start to predict these things? Will every save as a result then be different? Or will it follow real life transfer market of today? That's a hard thing for them to do. I don't know what the answer is, but something I think is worth talking about at least. It's not just recruitment that's been made smarter though. We've also put vast work into upgrading the in-game finance system to ensure there's greater dynamism and volatility in every career. Good. I think this is something people have wanted for a long time, so I'm happy about it. Brace for more transfer battles. Okay, good. The global transfer market is continuously evolving, and the most recent transfer window was unprecedented in several ways. As a result of the most recent global developments, we have made some wider coding changes to FM24 to try and reflect those trends in every career. Firstly, to ensure the way your rivals buy and sell players resonates with a clear identity, we've done a lot of work under the hood to improve their transfer market decision making. Again, an interesting point to this is that this affects big clubs. Whether this affects, and there's like a trickle-down effect that affects the smaller clubs, I guess we'll have to wait and see. The transfer prices or the values of players has obviously increased a lot, and will that trickle-down effect begin to affect something like a lower league save? How affected is that by the money that Saudi Arabia are spending? Do you see what I mean? Smarter opposition recruitment is in order of the day for FM24, with AI managers now programmed to consider factors like form and reputation more than ever before. So they were doing that, but I think this has always been a thing for Football Manager players, right? Is there enough going on in a sense of, do we feel like the AI being clever, or is it too easy? Is it too easy for us to manipulate the AI? I mean, that's the continued question mark for a lot of people. AI managers are now better geared to recognise imbalances in their squad makeup, and will take their tactical style into consideration. Very easy for me to say. Into consideration much more when shortlisting players. In essence, this means they'll look to fill attribute gaps in their squad. Now, again, AI teams buying players that seemingly made little sense, they're kind of emphasising the fact that that won't work as regularly. So a manager, for example, using gegenpress approach, will specifically look for midfielders with high stamina and work rate attributes if they determine that their squad is missing such a player. So I think there's part of me that thinks, kind of wish that was a thing already, but yeah, still, like, it's good that it's been put in. Their approach is now place a stronger focus on a player's potential ability rather than their current ability when players are looking for backup or rotation options to establish first team starters. So what they're essentially saying there, I think anyway, is that before you'd have a situation where if they needed a rotation player, they wouldn't go and get a rotation player, they'd just get another star player. That's why you'd see some like big teams often just stack their squads with players they on the surface don't need. And so whether they're going to now be a bit smarter, obviously the time will tell, and we'll refer back to this in 4 months' time and see if it's been the case. But yeah, I mean, all good stuff. That improved logic then also applies to outgoing transfers, with AI clubs now making much more considered and contextual decisions concerning loans for young players. If it was felt that a player was lacking certain terms of physicality, the club would try and facilitate a move to a more physical team to improve the aspect of a club's development, a player's development, sorry. Yeah, brilliant. Like, again, really good. Ultimately, this suite of changes means that your opponents will make more informed, reactive squad building decisions. It means that you will face more competition in the transfer market, and that when your rivals make mistakes, they'll feel more authentic and realistic. Again, because I'm just sort of asking questions here, I hope, again, I don't know, that reflects to how teams set up. Like, if there's a system in Football Manager this year that's really strong, will there be a big emphasis on going for those, like, so Gegenpress, for example, going for those, like, stamina work rate players? Is that going to be a real battle for those? But if you play like a more direct style, a more, I guess, not as popular style of football, will your market be a lot wider for that then? Doug certainly thinks so. I don't know if you could hear him shout, but he's obviously excited. He's probably excited to use code BenjiFM24 at checkout. Link down below. Fanatical. Get the game 22% cheaper if you want to. So variations to player development, and I guess this is sort of in keeping with all of that. To complement the changes with recruitment decisions of your opposition managers, there are some upgrades in a way that your rivals pick their matchday squads. If it means City don't play Haaland, they won't. They'll still play. Previously, teams were less likely to pick youth prospects in the first team because they had low current ability scores. Now those talents have a higher probability of being on the bench, and we'll see more playing time when teams are ahead or controlling matches in later stages. We've also worked on how the AI prioritise matches throughout the season. We should see rotation to help aid player development. I think that was the other thing, right? I'd take a player like Liam Delap at City. I know he's been loaned out and stuff, but he's never really, in Football Manager, he would always leave. And that was sort of a result of the fact that he'd never get the game time in a City team to ever become the player that maybe City fans or management think he could potentially be. So you just see him leave for 20 million to Southampton or something along those lines, right? This now, you might see Haaland pulled a little bit earlier, and then maybe you see someone like him become more obvious. Again, that was a quite obvious example. Someone like, I don't know, Ben Doak at Liverpool could be an example of that, right? There's players across loads of teams, especially Chelsea with all their young players. Will we see more and more of that now? You probably hope so. Elsewhere, we've made a few tweaks to player development. Some will see an accelerated or improvement in their teenage years before hitting their potential ceiling earlier on. I feel like that's already sort of a thing, but that's fine. Meanwhile, a new system, here we go, has been introduced to recognise late developers, Jamie Vardy's, or those players who don't break through until slightly later, but that would be considered typical. How do you find those people? That's going to be really hard, but hopefully we see some players again once they're 26, 27, really come into their own. Maybe they're sort of more adept at being slightly slower, potentially. Again, you think about the physical capabilities of those types of players. But ultimately, the football landscape is changing. You no longer peak at like 28, 29. Players can go on until 30, like late 30s at this point. Like, I've still got a chance. I think that's what I'm getting at. The other aspect of transfers we've made amends to is in-game transfer histories. Here, we've upgraded the user interface and given you the ability to filter league transfer histories by ins and outs. Cool. Good. I like UI changes, I can't lie. Okay, balancing the books. Right then, Lelujo's favourite section. Connected to these transfer market changes, we've also made several upgrades to finance systems in Football Manager 2024 to better reflect the way it works in modern football. Across the game, we've added a number of new items and improved some existing ones to provide you with greater clarity on your income and expenditure throughout the season. You'll also notice the key financial information is surfaced more clearly when you need it. Good. I've been calling for this for a long time. I think the finances is a hugely ignored area of Football Manager that's actually got the potential to be quite interesting for nerds like us. In certain instances where you've overspent your available funds, you'll notice that we've incorporated negative transfer budgets. If you go into the red, you'll receive an inbox item that informs you that you need to either sell players or use transfer clauses in order to generate fresh income. Examples and candidates for both are included in the inbox item too, as is a clear indication of how much money you need to recoup before you've got a positive budget. Again, okay, if you're unable to generate enough money with the agreed time period, your board will take control of your budget and begin to sell your players. We should all be worried about that. We should all be worried. That's terrible news. Smart, and better, but terrible news. I wonder how clubs like Newcastle will deal with that. Will the board go, don't worry, everything will be fine come the end of the season? The control will be relinquished back to you when either the cash has been raised or the transfer window is closed. I don't know how long that could go on for. Like, is there a point where they just go, new sports drink sponsorship? Is that still going to solve all the problems? Should you take over a club that's got a negative transfer budget, you'll face a more challenging start in the dugout. Yes. So I don't want to be horrible, obviously. That's what that will look like then. Always looking out for these things. There's no changes on that left-hand side, but it says work in progress, so maybe there will be. Maybe they're keeping it a secret for now, but still, always interesting. Essentially what they're talking about is like administration, but we might get more into that in a moment. Navigating further financial fair play integration. They're just doing more financial fair play. Rule breaks are going to be taken more seriously. I think that I could read that one out, but that doesn't seem like something massively important. You'll now notice that when a club is placed into administration, you'll receive new news items that show their net debt, profit and loss graphs, overall expenditure and overall income. That's great. Again, a better detail of how things are actually operating is really cool. Should your club, now this is interesting, should your club go into administration, you'll be notified that transfer funds have been withdrawn and that the administrators will listen to and consider any reasonable transfer offers that are made for your players. If you're unable to meet player wages, the Players Association will step in and you'll be under transfer embargo until that money has been repaid. A club can also now enter into a company voluntary agreement, a government bond that allows an insolvent company to pay off their creditors over a fixed period while they continue to operate. It's all getting a bit real, this. Okay, my only concern is can that only happen to player managed clubs? I don't, traditionally, due to like licensing and whatever else, they can't just do that to any club because it suggests that they can't operate correctly. So that might be very specific to players opposed to the game world. So that's the bit that I think is maybe interesting. New and dynamic income streams. It's not just expenditure that we've made changes. Now there's a greater fluctuation in the income of your club receives, therefore creating more dynamism and intrigue in every career. Great. Again, making social unique. I'm a huge fan. Anything that does that, huge fan of that. Indeed, you'll now see that we've included fixed-length TV deals, the news items indicating that these show changes in deals value and what percentage effect that has on the competition prize money for the seasons that the new agreement covers. Elsewhere, there are new news items providing contextual information on parachute payments and details on how your ticket prices sponsorships have changed based on whether you've been promoted or relegated. Love that. There's also a new season ticket league table located in the competition overview drop down. Oh, a league table for season tickets, which shows the clubs in order of their tickets sold and revenue recouped. I just know that when you're newly promoted into the Premier League, you're going to feel sick. But there we are. Interesting. Football Manager are using SI League TV rights as one of their ways to like showcase this, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, anyway, cool. This great information is all designed to improve the clarity of how new finances work, or how finances work in-game. Less money will now be described as general or other in the finance menu, and committed spend calculations for future transfers have been improved. Additionally, loan income and expenditure are now listed as separate and permanent deal income and expenditure. I really think the people that just want pretty graphics won't care about this. I know some people think that's me, but I think this is actually good. I'm a big fan of all of this. I really have nailed where like my priorities stand. For clubs in the lower divisions, they now turn professional at a point of promotion rather than at the end of the season. Oh, so that means you can prepare a bit earlier. Again, I'm planning to do a lower, spoilers, doing a lower league save next year. Conversely, there will also be discernible sporting and financial setbacks for not switching back from professional to semi-professional following relegation to lower divisions. No one gets relegated on Football Manager. You just reload. Don't think I know you don't. Of course you do. I'm the one that suffers. Our most intelligent market yet then. The upgrades to the AI squad building and finance systems dramatically level up the immersion of FM24, adding greater variety, dynamism and competition to every career. See that? Doing that to the game. People always say, like, where can Football Manager improve? It's already, that's where it can improve. Yes, graphically, yes, whatever. Get that on your Dr. Benji bingo. Adding greater variety, dynamism and competition to every career. That is, like, huge. And hopefully as well, will make network games just as interesting too. In the coming weeks, then they're going to talk about new features, and I will be making more videos on that. Changes to the match engine, targets of players, a refresh for set pieces. We'll definitely talk about that. So hopefully there'll be some more this week as well. If there is, we'll talk about it. Hopefully you enjoyed this little rundown and breakdown of what they're talking about. Leave your thoughts. How do you feel about this transfer update change then? And I look forward to reading your replies in the comments. If you enjoyed, you know what to do, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.